perfect, my friend. That was really, really awful, and you stuck with me. You know what? You are actually an EverQuest player. I know it just by this conversation because you never say die. You keep going until you work it and you make it happen. I think it's wonderful.
Hey, that's what you got to do with this game
That's
because
what
you're
you
going to
gotta
die
do.
a lot.
You gotta die a lot. So you are Doctor Nachoz.
That's right.
Do you go by another name?
Well, I used to go by Cat's Meow, CM99 games.
Well, how long have you been playing? Well, EverQuest is a oh my God, man. What was it? 2001. I started playing EverQuest.
Wow.
2001. And I got so, I mean, it was crazy how dumb, it is to be addicted to the game because right now you look at all the technology that's out there and games are so wonderful to look at. Back then it was like this little triangle thing.
Yep, that's right.
You were killing lions and it took like 15 minutes
Yep, per lion. That's
per
right. And then
lion.
afterwards, you had to med for another 15 minutes.
And then like a wisp would come from out of nowhere and just start beat at, and you would know where your hit points were going. You know what's going on. It was so scary, but it was so not pretty. You know what I mean? It's very interesting. How long have you been playing yourself?
Oh, I started in 1999.
Oh wow.
And the
So
story
you know it
behind that.
ugly. You know it ugly.
Oh yeah, you staring at the spell book and all that. That's how it used to be. But yeah, I mean, started in 1999. It was an interesting story of getting how I got into this game and how it changed my life. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, started then, played a little bit for a couple years, and then I quit for a while just because of work and stuff. I couldn't play at work anymore, so that really changed things.
what
It's
kind of
always
job
nice
did
when
you
you.
uh what kind of job did you have that you were able to play EQ at work?
Oh man, I had a great job. I had many great jobs. I was doing contract IT work back then, around for Y2 around Y2K and before.
Mhm.
And the thing is I was always working in the server room. All I had to do is bring in a graphics card, the Voodoo, that Voodoo graphics card, and then install that. We didn't have like those slimline desktops. We had mini towers or tower case PCs back then. And so I could put anything in it, and I'd put that in there, and I'd play at work in the server room everywhere I went, and nobody knew it at all. It was funny. But yeah, that's where I played at work. And after a while, jobs changed and it was harder to do that. And so, yeah.
Back in the day, they didn't know what you were doing, right? I mean,
Oh, no, no, nobody knew. I mean, and I didn't feel so bad because on the news, there was this guy I remember seeing on Inside Edition or whatever, one of those shows. There was a doctor that he'd play EverQuest like all night. And the next day he'd go in and do surgeries. And I said, hey, if he could do it, I could do it.
did you ever find out how he was able to do it?
No, he said actually what happened was he couldn't do it after a while. He kind of gave in, and they didn't have EverQuest Anonymous like Alcoholics Anonymous or anything. He said he just had to quit cold turkey, and he went through all this withdrawal and stuff. But yeah, I mean, he just had to stop because people were going to probably end up dying, or he cut the wrong leg off or something like that. But he was a surgeon, and he was playing EverQuest like crazy. And yeah, I mean, at that time I was like, yeah, that's crazy, but I could believe it.
Did he ever talk about why, like, it interested that section of the brain that tickled addiction for him?
No, he didn't say why. And in those days, I figured everybody'd be addicted to EverQuest. If they just played it a little bit, they sooner or later they'd be addicted because there were so many people playing back then. And just the way I started playing it, I knew that if I got hooked like that, and other people got hooked, that the whole world would get hooked if they got enough time to play on it. But
Well,
no, they didn't know why.
what was your introduction to that thing?
Oh,
Was it
say again?
what was your introduction to the EQ? What brought you to it?
Okay, so the story goes back in around 1998. It was a little bit before 1999, and I used to hang out on MPlayer. And MPlayer was it had this like this voice over IP type of thing, kind of like this voice chat. But there's only so many people that could play a game like 4 players, and I started out playing Total Annihilation, and that game was an RTS. It was like a Red Alert. So I started playing that game, and I got really good at it, and I met these other people out there. And then there's this one guy who lived in Vegas, or I forgot, it was Arizona. And he was telling me how he was playing Ultima Online. And he was saying, "Oh, this game is great." And then one day he played with us too. One day he disappeared for about 2 weeks, and we're like, "Hey, where'd so and so go?" And he came back and he said, "Guys, I got to tell you something." He goes, "Guess what? I sold all my stuff in Ultima Online. I'm out of that game. I'm going to quit this game too. And I'm going to go play EverQuest. This is like the last time you're going to see me. Come on, join me over the Look Me Up. This is who I am." We're like, "You're crazy." Then I had another guy on my team that played with me, and his name was, I started with a W or something. I don't remember his initials, but then he said, "Yeah, he's going to go check it out." He disappeared. And we had another guy that we played Total Annihilation with. He disappeared. Then all these people started disappearing right and left. And I found out I was maybe only one or two people left in that little lobby playing that game. There's nobody to play. So he came back one day and he said, my handle back then was the Turkish Angora, because I had a cat like that.
Everyone, you have great handles, actually. Doctor Nachoz, Cat's Meow, and what was that one again?
Oh, the worst one, CM99 Games. Oh man, what a mistake!
I remember
stuck with
CM99 Games. That's what you were mentioning. When you went to Doc Nachos, it's a different channel, isn't it? There are two channels out there. Yeah.
No, it's the same thing. The CM99 Games comes back to the same place, but the thing is there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to change it, and to rebrand the channel a little bit. Because as you go through these games and you get to know people and you find out what they like, or you find out, you maybe get an idea what may happen in the future, it brings you down a road where you figure, you have to change things. But yeah, a bunch of reasons. If you're interested, I'll tell you about it.
What I'm
questions
interested
first?
in? The tech of going from, it's really fascinating, because what you're dealing with back in '97, when you were playing these online games, is almost and was the technology was impossible then, wasn't it? Connecting
Yes.
like that. It took a lot of bandwidth
Yeah.
to play these little tiny pixelated games. You
Yep.
were an impressive person in terms of your ability to do that. You had to have a technological expertise.
Yeah, I was in IT before that. I was doing I was a field engineer, and even before that, even after college, I was actually, my major was sales and marketing, but I couldn't get a job in that.
Sales
The
and
job
marketing.
sucked. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my
Still, right? There are no jobs anymore. But
yeah.
you fell into technology. You did not necessarily pursue an education in
Well,
information
back then,
technology.
no. The thing is back then, in those days, we're coming out of the early '90s recession, and we're getting closer to year 2000. They were hiring everybody and anybody that had some computer skill. So I came out there, and I got my first job was working at a computer shop and just fixing PCs and building PCs in San Francisco. So then I went from that, and then I went out to getting contract work out there, because then a friend of mine who was doing the same thing, well, he's actually kind of was my boss before, but he said, "Hey, you should get out there, and these temp agencies have contract workers, there's headhunters," and the pay was really good too. So we got out there and started doing that, and from there, you learn everything. But you did have to have a lot of technology. I had those US robotics modems, and I had the old black ones that were like as big as a keyboard, or almost as big as a keyboard, that made that kind of sound,
Yeah.
and you had
Yeah,
to
you were
turn it off.
dial up, right? Or did you have a
Yeah.
T1? If you were at home, you had a
No,
dial
no,
one.
no. Yeah, dial at work. I got the T1,
Yeah.
so that was good. So they had ISDN back then
Could you even
at
play
some
at
places.
home? Or were you so addicted it didn't matter? Because
No, no,
that had to have impacted the player. Like if you were on a T1 at work, like rocking it with no lag at all, and then you go home and you're on a dial up, that had been horrible.
Yeah. It was really bad. I'm telling you, like what happens is you had to make sure you had that call waiting off, because people would call and it disconnect you.
Yeah.
So like my grandma would call me like, "Hello," and it's like, and there goes, all my lines go down, and
Right.
it was just crazy. But yeah, you were playing at work. Remember the T1 was basically the whole Bank of America, that I was at the time, or PG&E. They just had a T1 going out, and the whole floor, a couple floors would share that T1. And but EQ could play pretty good on a 56K dial-up modem. I had a the 14.4, then went to 19.2, 38.4. And then when it got to 56K, it was okay. I mean, we didn't have too many problems. Just the line stability was always an issue.
I remember just it taking a long time to load. And if you lost
Yeah.
connection, it was like ridiculous. You know what I mean? You were coming back dead.
Yep.
You were going to be sitting there for a while. I mean, the one thing that I find interesting is the organizational abilities that have to come into play when you do something like EverQuest,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And they get easier as the game matures. But back in 2001, before Eldons and stuff like that started happening, you had to organize people in
Yep.
such a way. And what do you think played into that for you?
Uh,
Did you enjoy that aspect of the game, or was it annoying? Because a lot of
no,
people walk away
no.
from it.
Yeah, I didn't like the organizational part, but I was in a guild, and the guy that ran the guild, he was pretty good at it. And in those days, it was all done by typing. But what we would do is we'd still fire up MPlayer, and we would still use that as a way to talk, because I found out later he was in Korea.
Oh wow.
And so, yeah, so, and the funny thing is his English was so good, I couldn't even tell. I thought he was, from California or somewhere. But there's a bigger story of why he could speak English so good. And I found out later, which is kind of interesting. But
What
anyway,
was the
so,
what was the story of him
okay.
speaking
So
English?
anyway, I used to joke around with him because, the conversion from the Korean won to the dollar was such, and, it was a lot. It's like, I think, a 30 or something. So I used to call him the Korean millionaire. And so he told me, he said, no, my family, we were American millionaires. I'm like, what? And he told me that the reason why his English was so good is he was born in Korea. And at a young age, they sent him to school in the United States out in Florida. That his family, they owned a couple of hotels down in Florida near Disney World or somewhere around there. But it wasn't, too north. It was around there or a little more south. And he said that during the recession, they all went bankrupt there. And but he said, yeah, we were millionaires. And I said, so, like, really, like, just 1 million? He said, no, it was more than that. He said, for graduation, they gave him a Porsche.
Ooh,
So he was driving a Porsche to school. So yeah, he was a real American millionaire. And then at that time, they said, okay, well, we got it made, and due to the recession, I don't know, they were over leveraged or stuff. They just lost everything. They had to go back to Korea. And then when he was in Korea, he started an English school. So he was really good. The accent was good and everything. And I was really shocked. And then he told me a lot of stories that I found amazing. And that's what I really liked about EverQuest, is finding out the story behind the person. Who
right.
are these people? What
Who
have
are
they
these
been
people?
through?
Why are they
Yeah.
here? Do they know
Yep.
how dorkified this game is? I couldn't find anybody in real life that knew what EverQuest was, you know? And then when I sat there and explained it to them, well, it's this fantasy world, and you go there and you fight things, they totally uninterested. I couldn't interest anybody in it in my real life. But
Yeah.
but yet I'd log into the game and I couldn't run through the plane of knowledge without, staggering, it's just incredible the amount of people. And you'd meet people and they'd be so cool, and you talk to them in private messages, and yeah, that's so fantastic. This guy is just a name, right? But
Yep.
then, like a book, you open it up and it turns out he's really successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, just like with the team we have this time, there's some guy we have on our team, that guy Anger. He's he told us, well, until you really meet him, until you really know, but it's kind of sounds like it, but he's an executive at some company or something. And he told me the one thing. I said, well, why do you play this game? I mean, how could that be? And he said, well, the thing is early on in your life, you've got a lot of time, but not a lot of money. He said, this is my one treat. When you get to this point in your life, you got a lot of money, but you don't have a lot of time. And so we're getting those kind of people because the game population is aging. So you're
Yeah,
seeing a lot of guys that they do have a lot of money, and yeah, so they have other jobs. And you think about it, this game today, it's the only game of its type.
only
You
time.
look at
Yeah,
World of Warcraft and all that, they don't have it. And to me, I've taken it to another level. The reason why I insist on everybody using Discord and using voice is because back in the day, when I used MPlayer to communicate with the Korean millionaire guy, and I used M players, I found that so much better. And I was like, I really hate the chat part. I really can't stand it. It takes forever to get anything
Typing.
done.
God almighty,
Yep.
yeah.
Oh yeah. And then when, you know, it's just, you know, you have to, they didn't have tabs or anything like they do now where you could separate everything or tab or chat windows. It was just, it was a pain.
It was
So
real
then
pain.
I always insisted on, hey, can we use the M player? You know, when I talked to him and the two other
That
guys.
original UI, man. If you look at the 97 videos and you see that UI, it was like death.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And then it didn't get better. If you did not augment that game, if you didn't put your own UI files in it, you know, that you found on whatever mod EQ or whatever that website was called, you were suffering too. It was like they hated people or something in that
Yeah,
development company. Let's
they
make it
really did.
impossible. Yeah.
It was the worst UI ever. Oh man, you're so right about that.
I never got into the audio stuff though. I never talked to anybody like this over an audio thing. The first time was World of Warcraft, and it was so awkward. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's really weird. Like, you know, like there have been people, even people we met that I've met on my the team I have now, the guild I have now, and I'd meet them and I'd say, well, just go ahead and I'll send you an instant invite on the channel. And you know that you think that you can't tell, you know, how they're what they're like, and then until you really talk to them. And then after a while, you know, when you if some of the people I've actually met, like Korean Millionaire, and well, that's a surprise, man. I'll tell you. It's funny, you know.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Do you think that's a correlation? This is a guy who is very smart, right? He can learn those tricks. He can learn languages. Not only learn languages, but disguise his accent within the language itself, right? You don't even know
Yeah.
where he's from originally. I mean, he might be from Seoul. There's an accent in Seoul. It doesn't show up in his English. That's fascinating. And then he builds businesses. That also is interesting that he would be in this game that you're playing because you build things too.
Yeah.
You build infrastructure and technology. I mean, I don't know what you do now. I would imagine that it's the same kind of ballpark. You know, maybe you code, same thing. You're building something. I'm a novelist. I write novels. I build things. When I played EverQuest, I used to build a team of people to go into the game with me so we can beat things on a small level, not like probably you do with these raids. Do you raid?
Yeah, we do raids you know, for we're not like a full size raiding guild on the TLP that you see right now,
Yeah.
but on the test server we do it because they've scaled down a lot of the raids due
The
to the
test
loss of
server. Interesting.
yes, a test server. That's where it's at. And so we do raids over there. We do older content because you know we don't need as many people to do it. And also the newer raids, a lot of them are smaller nowadays. It's not like big 72 man raids or anything like that. A lot of the stuff can be done with 48 players, 46, 42 players. Yeah. So we do some of it, but I like it's hard, you know, doing the raids and getting all those people together, even with all the voice and all that. It is really, really hard. And it just, you know, when we were doing other things like the heroic team and other
Mm-hmm.
playthroughs, that took a long time. I mean, most of it's just
Yeah.
organizing, getting people together to do it. And I didn't like doing that at all. I just like going out and having fun and sharing the experience with all the viewers out there. I think
That's interesting because it's
that's what I
so
want to
cool that
share.
you
Yeah.
do that because it took me like a long time to get back into the game, you know, and when you do, you want to multi-box and you need to learn all these other classes and you find people like you.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. You got a multi-box nowadays
You
on
know,
the live servers for sure.
that's one of the reasons I don't even play because it takes so long to log in. All six of my characters, you know, they're lined up, everything's perfect. I get the last one in. I'm like, oh, I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah, yeah, I know, you know, for me, I got like 3, 4 computers, and even with them, it's such a pain. You know, I look at it and it's like, wow, it took me a half an hour to load them all in to set up everything, and then, you know, one of them crashes, and it's like, here we go
Where you
again.
wipe, where
Yeah,
you
oh
wipe and
gosh,
you've
it
made a
wipes.
mistake, where you've, you know, soul bound or whatnot. Oh my God, it's the worst thing.
Yep, that's absolutely right. I mean, wow, wow.
What character do you play? Like your main? What's your favorite class right now?
Oh man, the on the TLP servers, well, my main overall everywhere it's going to be the Enchanter.
Oh, you
I'll
like
tell
the
you why in a
Enchanter?
minute. Yeah, the Enchanter, but it's been nerfed so heavily, especially now that they had a new nerf. And nerf meaning they made the character really weak. And it used to be
Interesting.
in Classic. You know, we've just come out of Classic about a half a month ago on Rizlona.
Hmm.
The Enchanter used to be the strongest.
Congratulations. That's cool.
Yeah, let's see how much population we can hang on to. But the enchanter was, in my opinion, the strongest, most OP'd, overpowered character
Yeah, back when I
class.
played, right, he can take control of a mob, and that mob would just beat down. Like it would increase
Yep,
the strength and everything of the mob itself. Like it would make it a super mob, and
yep.
then it would beat the crap out of everything. Yeah, I love playing with a high class enchanter. I have a 50 something now, and I don't like the character. The only thing he has is clarity or whatever that mind buff he has.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. You know, at some point, you're at that point where you're already seeing the writing on the wall and the nerfs already coming in. Right around Kunark, things start to show their bad side. When you get out to Planes of Power, the character just becomes like just a buff bot, I would say. I mean, on raids,
Exactly.
on classic, I mean, on raids, I've said to everybody, you know, hey, I'm having fun now in the group game, but on raids, I don't complain, even though I do absolutely nothing. There's only thing I do is put clarity on people in haste after they've been rezzed. That's all you're going to be doing.
And there's no
Nothing
point
after that.
to log out and then log back in to do it. You kind of want to sit there and be able to do it as needed.
Yeah, well, they need you there too, because when they res people, when you know, like say you're going to fight Kazakh or something, every time somebody gets death touch, they need to get the haste back on them, or they need to get clarity. So it's like, hey, guess who? That guy in the corner over there named Nerdus, he's going to put haste on you. He's going to put clarity on you, you know. So that's your job pretty much in the rate, even at the high level. The enchanters, it's even weaker than weak. There's, I mean, bards can do pretty much everything, and other characters, other classes have things that can crowd control. The game is
I
just turned
love,
into this one funny thing. You go
love
ahead.
a bard. A bard
Oh yeah,
is
they're good.
amazing. I have like a 50 something bard. Love the bard. The bard just sits there and plays his music, and everything happens so lovely.
Yep, the bards they're great. They're definitely great. You know, I figured that out one day. I was out there and I forgot what we're doing. We're doing one of the things, and we had a bard with us, and the guy we had playing the bard usually plays a rogue. So he just said, I'm going to make a bard. And I noticed that he was able to do a lot of stuff I was able to do, but he was able to do it better. Then I realized, oh my gosh, Enchanter's really, it's going to the graveyard. But I still play it because you know what? You need somebody to pop that clarity on people after they've been rezzed.
No, it's an important one. Your mana comes up so slow that you need it. It's so noticeable without it. So
Yeah,
noticeable.
at the low level, at the classic level, definitely anywhere. The high level, shoot, they don't even need that. I'll tell you something funny is that the mana regen without clarity is so fast. It's ridiculous that if you look at it without your clarity on it, it's already too fast. So you never run out of, nobody ever really runs out of mana unless they're in some really intense situation. We never run out of it, even without the clarity. When it's
You
off, we don't
you
notice
run
it.
out of hit points before you run out of mana, right? It's
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
you're
Now
dead.
hit points at the modern game at level 115, they can kill you in about 12 seconds. The mobs can, trash mobs can do that to you. So you got to really be
Always
on it.
could. Like what
Yeah.
was it? Walk? What was it? There was one I quit at 70. I maxed out at 70. That was back in the day. So I my top character right now is 70. I've not been able to progress beyond that. What what expansion was that? That
That
maxed out
was
at 70.
probably Serpent Spine or Depths of Dark Hollow, something
Serpent
around
Spine,
there.
or the one
Yeah.
between those two. Man, those mobs would just lay you out. The trash would just boom, you're dead. How
Yep.
many maxed out characters do you have? Do you? I mean, because I imagine when you do the test server, you roll a character whatever level you want. Is that how it works on a
Well,
test
on the
server?
test server, it runs, that's like beta. The beta server, you get to do that. You get the max of everything. You can just pick up the thing to get all the raid gear because they want you to test beta. But on the test server, you get double experience like what we're getting right now around Labor Day. And in addition to that, I think there's another built-in bonus, a base bonus of 2x. So you'll get another bonus on top of that. So it levels so fast. You go through those. So what we do is we just power level our characters that we want to the high level. So if we need another shaman or whatever, we just power level them up in a week or so.
Oh,
And
interesting. And that's still 150.
yeah, 115, yeah.
Wow.
If they have Torment of Elias, um, and you know, I hope they're going to have another expansion. Come to think of Torment of Elias.
Well, there. I mean, if I'm staying up on my EQ news, they just had some interesting kind of turmoil, right? They're shaking up
Yeah.
right now. That's not good. They just got bought. Something happened. Tell me what happened. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Refresh my memory.
I got pieces of it. They used to be owned by Daybreak, and then Daybreak
Daybreak.
spun them off to Darkpaw,
That's
and
right.
at the same,
It's still Daybreak though, right? It's just annexed off of them.
yeah, it's now they're Darkpaw. So what happened is now they're Darkpaw, and a lot of changes came. I don't think they're really good changes, but I'll go over those real quick. First of all, is I think Holly left, and she was the production person or producer. So she left, and then they had one of their top developers that was doing the raids. He left, and then they had all these other problems. I think they went and did some cost savings, and they tried to go to a cheaper data center or something, or do it off the cloud or whatever, and just to save some money. And then you had that big fiasco with the new Aerodune server, and that thing, the capacity was only about maybe 2,000 people on it before the thing blew up, and it was blowing up so much. And then until they said you guys can transfer for free over to Rizlona, the server I'm on. But they've had that problem. They've had a lot of problems with the test server, where it's backwards, where what they're doing is you get a lot of these messages where they're saying we're updating tests to match the live. Now it should be the other way around. It should be we're updating the live server to match the test server. You know,
Right.
you
That's what I
test
would
first.
think.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
they're saying it the other way, and I'm like, what the heck is it? You know, they're talking about it going backwards, and then they've got other problems. I think the most notable one is you just look at like the bonus experience they're offering right now. We're getting it right now, but it says the date that it's offered is actually another date. Just little things like that. But somebody told me the reason why is that the game is so old, and none of the new good developers want to work there. That they see it and they say, "Oh, this is old technology." And I remember when I was in IT, it was the same deal. People would say, "I don't want to work with legacy stuff. I don't want to do this or that." So they're not going to. It's hard for them to attract really good, talented developers or new talent there. So I think they've got a lot of problems. And I'll tell you
Right.
what,
I
if
never
they
thought of
don't,
that, actually. That's a really interesting point.
it
It
really
being
is.
antiquated tech. I mean, if you're going to go to school and you're going to get, the high speed computer science degree, you're going to want to use it for something that's going to break the world. You know what I mean? Not
Yep.
polish the old statue that the old man who died 50 years ago built.
Yeah, that's right. And you're gonna want to work for Facebook or Google or something like that.
And
You got to.
it's so trite, isn't it? We look at it and we think, oh, it's so trite. Don't you want to polish a statue? It was made by a master.
Yeah. You're so, yeah. I mean, it just, yeah, it's all about the dollar.
What
But
did
so,
you hear about
yeah.
Galaxies, Star Wars Galaxies?
No,
How
I didn't follow it.
they're like you can get the game, right, and they have built up a support system around that old code.
Oh,
Somebody who
wow.
loves it. I mean, there's a guy who's doing it. This guy has been doing it for the longest time. Um, I wondered if what would it take for you to be in that situation where you would say, I'm going to go to somebody who's manicuring the EQ unofficial museum.
Ah, oh, so I'll say that again.
So like
Explain it.
Galaxies is a game that went away, right? That deleted
Yeah.
everybody's character. It was absolutely devastating. I mean, it was like, why even do MMOs anymore if you could just get rid of the thing? I mean, it's supposed to be a valuable thing that I put a lot of effort into, and it's gone. And EQ is owned by basically down the ladder the same company. So maybe one
Yeah.
day down the road they'll say, you know what, guys, there's 4 people playing. We're going to delete the whole thing. But would you go ahead and continue playing this game on one of those manicured bots, basically?
Oh,
Somebody
yeah.
who's basically stolen the code and they've
Yeah.
reversed engineered it into their own server.
Okay, that's a good question. Really good question, because right now they do have P99 and the variants, and I did play a lot of emulators in between when I first took
Emulators,
off.
that's the
Yes,
word I'm looking for.
yeah, emulators. So like AX Classic, I like that one, and P99 played that for a bunch. But the thing is with those is they don't have enough content. They most of them end at Velius, and anything beyond that's incomplete, and the mechanics of the game are all different. Um, I don't know. I think that
It's just
I don't
sad
think I
if you think
would.
about it, right? Because you're
Yeah,
talking about like if it stops at Velius, that means
yeah,
all of that story, all of that code, which is artistic in its basic form, is gone, right? If it
yep.
EQ goes away.
Yeah, that's all they have out there is that. I think they could develop it beyond that, but there's a lot of things that are going to be tough for them. For example, instancing meaning you get a copy of the zone for yourself, and the way things work nowadays on P99, it's all like the old days. There's only one zone, one fear plane, not like on a TLP where there's many. So the game doesn't scale that well.
Mm,
And I think that, I don't know, I've been thinking
interesting.
about that, Bryan, like, if EQ ended tomorrow, because this is why I kind of I'm worried that it actually may
Yeah,
end
me
sooner
too.
rather than
That's
later.
the news, right? You look at it, and that seems to be the way it's going. Oh,
Yeah, because
Darkpaw owns it, and who's Darkpaw? Well, we don't care.
yeah, they're just a dark paw. Yeah. And I kind of worry about that. I actually worried about it before, like 2017, actually. Back then, I was worried, like, this game may not last. Let me make some videos and just of me playing it, and then I'll just keep those videos. And then it turned into this whole big thing that I didn't think it ever would last this long. But then I didn't realize there was that much content, and there still is a lot more to
There's a
go
lot of
too.
content. That's so interesting. So, do you think of yourself as a curator now?
Nah, I mean, maybe a little bit, kind of. I've said that before, like this could be the EQ museum of videos. But beyond that, as for having a emulator out there, yeah, I don't think I could do that.
You
It
would
takes a
not.
lot.
You would not take what you're doing on YouTube right now and put it in the emulator and continue offering the kind of tutorials and kind of raid guides that you do now.
Oh, yeah, it'll still be there. The EQ stuff on YouTube will be there forever, as long as will be there for everybody to come back and see. But to put it actually into the emulator, a working emulator out there, that's too much, way too much. After a while, I thought,
Investment, right? You have to have
oh
money to do something
gosh,
like that. You personally,
yeah,
if you're going to say, "Hey, here's a free game," that's the unfortunate part about it, is that
yep.
they are saying, "Hey, here's a free game," and people like me go, "Okay, it's free, but you can pay for it." No, no, it's free. I'm not going to pay anything.
Yeah, there's so much. After I played for these last few years so much, I realized that my gosh, there's just so much going on under the hood with this game nowadays. It's so complicated
Right?
that once you get past Velius and you start getting things like linked aggro, and the way the aggro has changed and all the mechanics of the game have changed, you start realizing how complicated it is. When I did my own emulator server, it's just for my own use, it was very simplistic. And then I could start to see, like, well, how come the aggro doesn't work like this? It works like this. It's just a general blanket type of aggro where you set a radius in, but it doesn't work like nowadays, where they can have linked aggro, meaning that if you aggro a mob here, the one on the other side of the zone can aggro on you. That's called linked aggro.
Hmm.
So they have just mechanics like that. Or there's other things like that the regular game, the P99 game, doesn't have. P99 is a much simpler version of the EverQuest you see
Yeah.
nowadays. It's really simple. Yeah.
This belongs in the Library of Congress, doesn't it? EQ.
Yeah.
EQ,
It
you were
does.
saying what got built up
It's
to.
it's such a big yeah, it's a lot of work. 20 years of work went into that thing. Yeah.
And it's a completely original world too. None of this is based on D&D or what have you. They built this entire thing up, creature after creature, land after land from nothing. I mean, it's interesting. It's no original content. Am I wrong?
Yes. You're absolutely right. They built it. Everything was built up. Um and the thing is the thought that went into doing everything. I look at some of the early zones, like Classic. They had to do all this individual itemization stuff you don't really see nowadays in the modern game. It's just they just get this like blanket kind of template where that you get this kind of loot. Now all the loot's basically the same, but it depending on your level, it's like this or that. But in the old days, there was special, really good loot that would give you a good advantage, and that loot was hard to get. It was very random and all that. All that's
I never
gone
found
nowadays.
I never found anything back in the day. Not one thing that was good. It didn't come from the auction house.
Yeah.
It's like, my God. And then Eldons happened and things really, I was the most basic character in the entire world. I was that guy wandering around the desert that you would give stuff to because you didn't understand how he was level 15 with nothing. That was me
Oh,
when I
that's
first
great.
started. I know.
Yeah, I was like that too. I mean, first thing that happened to me is I got killed by a hill giant. Well,
You
first
went
of all,
too
I was
far.
blind.
Oh no, wait,
Yeah,
how'd you get killed by a hill giant?
well, that was when they had East Commons and West Commons,
Oh yes, I
and
forgot.
so
They
yeah, I
are down
started.
there in the Oasis, aren't they? The Giants.
Yeah, they're there, but the Hill Giants are up in West Commons. Were when that's and P99
Oh,
is the same winning. So I started as a first character was Human Warrior, and that
of
was the
course.
worst character ever. Can't blind as a bat. So I got into East Commons, and I just started going west. I couldn't see a darn thing. How I got
I
to the other
know.
end, I don't know how, but I
Oh
zoned
my
into West
God,
Commons.
man, the gamma setup on the old game was just horrible.
You couldn't.
I,
It was darker than dark.
darker
That's
than
right.
dark. I started a rogue, a gnome.
Oh
I
my.
started a gnome rogue. I was so excited. This is the first character ever for EQ. I log into the game. It takes forever to log into the game, like 10 minutes on my
Yep.
dumb internet line. And finally, I'm in the game. And I moved this character beyond the first room. It had torches in it. And I just go into a hallway. It was so dark, I got lost and couldn't
Yeah.
find that fucking character ever again. He was
Yep.
gone. I know the server. I can log into it now. Fine, I got him out. But for the longest time, he was just a lost character. I couldn't do anything with. He was just lost in that hallway outside the training room. That's how
Oh
bad the gamma
yeah.
was for me.
Yeah, even me too. I cranked everything up. I couldn't see a darn thing.
And
It
then
was
you'd
dark.
move staggeredly. You couldn't move if your gamma was too high.
That's right. It was just so that's why the next character I made had to be a dark elf because they had ultra vision. And after that, I was like, why does anybody even want to make a human? Because you're going to get killed. You can't see
Right?
anything. You're going to drown.
I
You're
had a
going to die.
gnome. It was just computer stuff. That's what makes the game so fascinating to me. Is it's not just your character, right? You can have a level 15 warrior human, but the person sitting in front of the computer could have beefed up their specs right there, have a badass motherboard, video card, whatever have you, and they're going to be able to play the game on a different level than you. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Or they can code in things, and when they hit a key, 7 things happen in,
Oh yeah.
and it's great how your muscle as a human being impacts your ability to play that game.
Yep.
What's the most impressive thing you've ever killed in the game?
Oh gosh. Okay. As myself, or well, I'd have to say to answer that's as myself. Um, Gosh, there's so many. It's you know, some of those videos I've made, some of the more impressive ones, were done with the making of them. I think come to think of it, I mean, there's some like the Ghoul Lord that were done. It could solo those with Enchanted. Those were fun to do. You have to think about it. It has to be difficult enough. You can't be too over leveled with it. But some of the more impressive ones on my own was I was making this video about it. I think it was a year ago. It was how to farm the Black Iron Medallion, and it was Battle Wizard Ulak, and it was in Runny Eye. It was a new player video, and I was
Mm,
setting that thing up, and just what started out as a little train turned into the bigger
that's that
crazy
zone.
train, and it got
Absolutely.
down. Oh, that place is a death trap down there. The pathing will totally
My
kill you.
God.
And the,
And it's one of those zones where it's so triangulated and weird that you don't know which way is a pathway and which way is just a computer going, this is a wall.
that's right. Aggro through the walls,
Yeah,
nuke you through the walls. But the
yeah.
the train started, and I got down to a point where there's just barely any hit points. I was just fighting it out and just trying to stay calm and fight it out. But it was one of those things where it went down. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be dead. And I just kept the video running. Like, let's see if it happens. So that was good. The Ghoulbane camp was a good one too. At the higher level, we have other things where you've done things, but those all involved other people, and so I should give that credit too. A lot of encounters we did. It's hard to remember some of them, but there was one guy that we had that I think the most spectacular one of all was when we did. I forgot what it was. It was one of those things. We did Cinder Rock Springs. It's a video, Cinder Rock Springs and Plain of Fire. So we go in with a 6-man group, and we're finding the first guy. He's on the first bridge in Plain of Fire, and everybody gets wiped out except one guy. I think the guy was named
Okay.
Fanatic or something like that. He was a cleric.
I was
So with the cleric epic, he
wow.
was able to res people,
Oh,
still keep
awesome.
battle clericing,
That's
and
badass.
still going on. I could not believe this. And we just kept getting res. We finally beat that guy. But that was
That's
probably,
badass.
yeah, I was thinking about making a highlight clip and just showing that. That would have been probably my vote. It was, I think,
Oh,
2018 or something.
oh,
But
I'm like
those
playing
are
it
some
in my
really
head
awesome.
right now. I've got the music soundtrack going. Like it's real sad. Everybody's about to die. and then he gets
Everybody did die except him. Yeah.
and he's the last one. He's about to die, and he gets the res off, and the warrior pops up,
Yep.
pops a cooldown, full health. Bam, he's got all the aggro on him.
Then the warrior
Cleric
died
full,
again. Yep.
yeah, right. And but the cleric is full health finally, and he's got another res. That's badass. I love it, man. And you really can dig into that because it's not, again, the game. It's fine. That guy is
Yeah.
not doing it for himself, that cleric. He's doing it for the buddy so he can continue, and it's a group activity that prospers. Do you remember back in the day, this was back early EQ, a group of people killed something they shouldn't have been able to kill. It broke the game and EQ shut it down.
Oh no, I don't remember that. Oh, that would have been so cool.
It was a dragon. It was like the massive dragon underneath, God
Was it the
almighty,
sleeper?
man,
Yeah,
it
it was a
was the
sleep. Sounds like
sleeper.
sleeper. Yeah.
It was the sleeper, and they shouldn't have been able to beat it, and they did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was Sony, I think, then, or was it the original
Yep.
one?
It is Sony. Yeah. I
Or
think
Was
Sony
it
all the time. Yeah.
Vanguard? It could have been Vanguard at that point.
Varant and Sony, I think.
Varant. Well, I mean, it was fascinating. Like, they broke the game. They said, no, you exploited a cheat. It doesn't count. They didn't get anything off of it, right? But they beat this thing that was just unbeatable, and it was like just group activity, wasn't it? Doing something that they had
Oh yeah, there's
failed
a
at
lot of
over and over and
things.
over again.
You if you read when you read the bug notes and all that through time, there's always been these things that would break the game, totally break the game. If you killed an NPC, it could crash the server. But
Mhm.
the thing about this game that makes it good is there were these bugs, like the best charm pet that I had. Oh man, that video was just crazy. I can't believe they kept it around that long. But there were things, certain mobs you could charm that were basically unkillable, and that was one of them, the Irod Hayrod in Mistmore. For all those years, she was there, and one day I charmed that character, that NPC, and it's indestructible. She killed everything in Mistmore. So yeah, they had a lot of bugs like that, but those are some of the fun times too.
Could you pull her out of Miss Moore and use her in other
Oh, I
capacities, or was she?
wish.
No, yeah, okay.
Oh, I so wish. Everybody asked me the same thing, but yeah, I'd get people in there and charm Irod Hayrod and put them in my group, and they were lower level, and they'd be in my group, and I'd kill everything in the whole zone. Just send Irod Hayrod to kill every single thing, and she was invincible basically, and only level 37, but hit like over level 50. And these other people with me, they just leveled up, so we always did things like that on the TLPs. Was so funny.
It wouldn't affect me now because I've already got the base. But back when I was camping a little tiny room in Miss Moore Castle for my epic, for my paladin, the 1.0 or whatever it was, I never got it. Never got it. But I would be that'd be awesome. I hated that. It just sucked so much soul out of me to be camping
Yeah.
that particular item. These epics, man, that quests on EverQuest, it's called EverQuest. And you know what I did? I forever camped. That's what I did. I found camps of people, and I killed mob after mob, and I leveled up, and I never quested. I never did any of the stories until like later on. I was like, wow, these things are really hard to navigate.
Oh yeah, they're really really hard. We were talking about that tonight, on the stream. I don't know if it was before or after, but yeah, I'm like you. I just used to camp stuff and kill stuff, and I like grinding stuff like that. But then when Torment of Veles came out last year, I thought to myself, maybe this new model of just getting experience from the quest is going to be really good. Maybe I'm going to like it because you complete the 4 achievements in Torment of Veles and you get 115. It levels you up like half a level per quest you do,
Mhm.
and then for those big ones. So anyway, the thing is, I reflected back on it. I said, I like it when it was grindy, because the reason why, what we found out is that the way they have it now, where you just go into the zone and do the quest, once you're done with the quest, you never have any reason to go back to the zone, because killing the mobs does nothing. The loot isn't just, it doesn't come from mobs. I mean, the monsters, it comes from finishing the quest. So once you're done with the quest, ain't no reason to go back. So it's kind of sad. Yeah, I kind of like the old way where it was just grind, 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 and that's why the TLP servers are so popular
You
now.
need that
That's why
group
that's a big
mechanic.
money.
That's
Yeah.
how I still play, right? I have to log in, 4 of my characters at a minimum. I'll what are they, mercenaries pet now, the
Yep,
healer and
that's
tank
right.
mercenaries, and just rock out for a few hours, or I'll just log in all 6 characters and do the same thing. But
Yeah.
I don't quest. I hate the mechanic of it. It's hard to find what exactly it's looking for, and I don't like wasting my time. I think, did you ever go to any other games beyond EverQuest? Did you ever play the World of Warcrafts or the Galaxies, or was it
I
the
played
Old
a little.
Republic or whatnot?
No, I played a little bit of. I tried, Dark Age of Camelot, Asheron's Call. I tried them for a little bit, but I didn't like them as much. World of Warcraft, I played a little bit, and it was okay, but it wasn't my cup of tea. I still, EverQuest is a kind of game where it
It's
keeps you
different.
coming back,
Gets in your
no
blood.
matter what.
I mean, you're
Yeah,
talking about that questing in the area until you're finished and then you move on. That's a World of Warcraft thing, right? I mean, you get into the
yeah,
area, you're exhausted of quests, and then you find the next area and you do the exact same thing. You're leveling up with the quests and everything. And EverQuest doesn't dumb that down for you. I mean, you'll find yourself on a quest that'll put you in a level 100 zone. Like, oh, you have to
yes,
talk to blah, 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 all the way over there. I think it's fascinating. I think it's really,
yeah,
really fascinating. And like you said, it's going away. Like, people
yeah.
don't read, people don't want to do this thing, which was just grinding.
Yeah, yeah, and the grinding was a central part of the game as I see now, because I go back to Torment of Elias, and let's take a revamped zone like Great Divide. Once you've done all the quests, there's nothing to do, and if you want to get experience, well, there's only one good camp. You go to Blood Maw, and that's all you do. You just somebody sits at Blood Maw, and once they got the Blood Maw camp, that's it. The rest of the zone is worthless.
Worthless.
It's so big. It's filled with zero, with nothing, with garbage, and then not like nowadays, in the TLP servers, you say you go to Miss More and you do something, well, you can come back there and you can get other stuff. You can get some experience, and it's still got the thrill and excitement. It's not a used up dead zone. But yeah, that's what's happening nowadays is with this new model they came up with last year. And it's unfortunate, but let's hope that they kind of change it back to something a little different. But then we go back to the Burning Lands, which came out before Torment of Ellis, and we did a whole series on that earlier this year. And I think they did a pretty good job with that. But then at the end, as they made it backwards. They made the beginning quest harder than most of the end quests, which is just how did they mess up with that? I don't know, and what happened there. The game, you start off in the game. Most people I read did not even finish the smoke trials. You got to do these 6 smoke trial quests or encounters before you can even get into the next zone. I mean, they locked everything behind progression. I mean, if you don't do these quests, you don't do it like this, you can't go any further. But there was an exploit that allowed you to skip past that. And that's how we did it on the test server. We used the exploit to land in the next zone, set a campfire up, meaning, and then bind out there. So meaning we could get out there anytime we wanted to. And then we did all the quests back where we did the kind of like the end content. And then the very last thing we did was we did the stupid smoke trial, which is so funny, but if they did that expansion pack right, it would have been a great X pack, I think, because it was new artwork. It was new zones, not these revamped, recut and pasted zones. So it was all new stuff. And that was pretty good. And you could still grind experience too. So it had a little bit of both. It was a good effort. But of course, like I mentioned, the questing was all backwards.
Excuse me. What kind of funding do you think they have now when they
What's
have an
that?
expand? What kind of funding do you think they have now per expansion? I can't imagine it's
Oh,
much.
no,
Like,
no,
you say
it's not much.
rehashing old zones and stuff like that. I'm like thinking, what can they possibly do otherwise but work with what they
Yeah.
already have?
Well, yeah, the Burning Lands was the only one. Well, I'll give you an example. On one of my streams, a couple of them, one of the Daybreak employees, artists, the environmental artist, Alan Bond, came by. I used to think nobody watched me at all. But one night he showed up and he said, "Hi, I'm Alan Bond, whatever." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And then I kind of didn't believe him. And then I asked him a few questions, sound like him, and I sent him a Discord invite back then. And he was there, and it was really him. And I couldn't believe it. So somebody from Daybreak was there. And then he told me a little story we talked about expansions. He talked about House of Thule and all. And then he said that the last real big expansion that they had that was a real bona fide expansion was the Darkened Sea. And he said for that, they had to hire like seven artists just to work on that thing. So they had a big bunch of people. But he said ever since then, it's nothing like that. It's like a skeleton crew that they have
Right.
working on stuff. So, the thing is they do have money problems, and makes you wonder how long can they go on, and so that's why you're seeing a lot of these really small expansion packs.
Would you
with
want
all
to see
5
more?
zones,
Oh, I'm sorry, you broke up. I
with
thought you were.
they just cut and paste, like you said. Oh no, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You had a long pause, and it was system provided, not you. So I jumped in, and unfortunately, cut you off in the middle of what you were saying. And I would like you to finish saying what you actually say
Oh
what you were saying
yeah,
again, please, because I missed it
yeah.
entirely.
It was about the time Alan Bond would stop by the live streams, and then he told me that the Darkened Sea had seven different artists working on it. Usually they don't have that many,
Fascinating.
and so that's how big it was. But he said that was the last expansion that had that many. He said all the other ones have the skeleton crews. So in other words,
I
they
think
go out there.
7 is a skeleton crew, right? I mean,
Yeah,
7
that's
does not sound like a lot of people. What's a
it.
skeleton crew to Alan Bond? I mean, that's interesting. It's like nobody is 7. 7
it
people got together and built a freaking game. I mean, I don't know about a game, but it's like this. It's fascinating talking to you because I mean, you're motivated by a thing that you discovered 23 years ago,
oh
and you
yeah,
find joy in. And not only do you find joy in, but you provide other people a way to experience the same type of joy. It's a
yep,
hard game, especially in the beginning. There's a big learning curve to it. It's confusing. It has a lot of components. You have to be able to surf the internet, right?
yes. That's a second skill you need: surfing internet.
You need computer skills. You need to be able to upload files and open things and know where the game is located on your directory. I mean, there's things in this game that influenced my entire adult life. You know what I mean? It made me more literate as a
Yes.
human being. And this game made me more literate as a human being than a lot of things that tried to make me more literate. You know what I mean? Like my
Oh
education in high
yeah.
school.
Yeah, I totally agree. In the old days, you had to carry a binder around with all the maps and everything like that, your quest info.
Right.
Yeah,
If
binder.
you reinstalled the game, you had to go find the maps again
Yeah.
from that same directory and re-download them. It does not come with the games. I mean, they made it hard, and I think they made it hard because they couldn't afford to do the rest of it. How much do you think the game influenced your ability to make these videos? And
How much did it influence? It
the
influenced.
ability, like the ability to say, I can do this.
You know what? When I started this, I never thought about, like I could do this, or at first I thought, I'm just going to make a couple videos, and then I'm just going to, they're going to be for just to show people like these. It's funny looking back at them, like the first quest you should do when starting new, like that video still gets a lot of people watching it. And I can't believe it. It's just about getting this one axe and getting out of the mines of the glooming deep. But I didn't think it would turn into anything. There were a lot of other people making EQ content out there. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go ahead because I'm a noob, and I'm a returning noob. And since I can kind of see it from the noob's point of view, I'll go ahead and make it for noobs by noobs, like that. And that's all I thought. I'm going to make a couple of videos. And then after that, I accidentally tried to do a stream once, which was a disaster stream. But then the funny thing is I got more hits off the disaster stream than my regular videos. And then I started doing other stuff, and with it all started with the streaming, and then I got lucky with Agnar coming around. But even at that point, I didn't think it would ever turn into anything. It wasn't until probably last year, 2019, when I realized that, what had happened. So I was going through this all this time. I was like, yeah, I just want to share what I'm doing with people in EverQuest so that people can enjoy it, and maybe it can help them out on some of the quests or some of the things I discovered that I thought were really cool. And some people didn't like it; they thought it was funny. And looking back, it is funny that, that I think those things were cool. But it's coming from a new player, and I realized that's what made it successful. And it just happened. It's one of those things you just don't. I never thought about I'm going to do this, and or I didn't think I was doing anything. In fact, I thought it was just going to be originally Cat's Meow. It was going to be a cat channel. You might have heard that on the stream,
This is
but
so hilarious.
seriously, it started out. My girlfriend said, "You know what?
People love
You know,
cats.
yeah, that was when YouTube was different and people
Right.
making cat videos were millionaires." And she said, I keep seeing cute cats on the street. Why don't we start making cat videos? I'll bring the camera out there or the phone, and we'll do videos on them and post them in there. And I couldn't get myself to do it. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So then then I said, I'm going to put up some games, and I did that Super Dungeon Tactics. And that went nowhere. And then I did a few EverQuest things, and that went nowhere for a long time until Agnar came out. And then it just started happening. And then one day I checked it. It's like I had something like 700 something videos. And I was like, what? How did that happen? And then I realized it just, next thing it happened is, wasn't until next year I started to monetize things, because people were telling me like, well, you should monetize it, or this is what you're really doing. You're creating this thing, and people are coming back. I started seeing people come back to the game,
I
and
mean,
this other
you'll
channel.
eventually become as important as the game, right? If you recognize, I mean, how many people are doing it, and then who's being recognized for doing what you're doing? I recognize you, I see your videos, I subscribe to you. I think there's, unfortunately, in this country anyway, there's a thing, it's Pepsi or Coke, Democrat,
Yeah.
Republican. It's, Doctor Nachoz or whoever the hell else does EverQuest videos. But you develop a fondness for that particular person, and you allow them to tell you the story of that thing. And the opportunity here is, and that's what I find interesting about you, is you're telling the story of this thing that really gave me a big introduction to computers and the internet and gaming in general
Yeah.
in 1990, or what was it, 2001, my first real computer experience.
Mm-hmm.
22 years old, it's like that was my switch from analog to digital. That was the
Wow.
moment, and EverQuest held my hand through it. When I play now, though, it's different. You know what I mean? I'm all those people
Yeah.
now who build that perfect party, and I'm disappointed about the Enchanter, man. You're right. It's it's not the
Yeah.
powerhouse I thought it once was. Like I'll mez a mob, and like it'll be unmez 3 seconds later. It's like, this is not how this is supposed to work. Damn it.
Yeah, yeah. Or now you're going to find a lot of unmessable mobs and
Yeah.
uncharmable mobs. Last year they made 1,000 quest mobs uncharmable, because the quest mobs were the best ones to charm, because a lot of them were so overpowered that
Overpowered. Yeah.
you could plow everything in the zone. Oh man, but that was the fun of the game. There was that, that mob out there.
Element of what is this going to be. I remember downloading technology that would allow me to see inside the game a little bit, and that was an exploit and a cheat. You know what I mean? It would
Oh
show you the
yeah.
whole zone and the names of the mobs.
Yep.
And
Show
again, it was one of
EQ.
those things. I mean, once you pull back the curtain a little bit, you're like, oh, I'm not interested anymore. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like this combination of building a team and then cooperating. And if you messed up, you're just letting down all these people that you promised loot to. We're gonna earn some plat. We're gonna earn some loot. Let's go do an Eldon or whatnot, and then you wipe out. You make a mistake, you don't do the right thing at the right time, or you zone out at the computer or something. It's like there's an element to it that goes beyond the game. It's like a real life thing,
Oh yeah. It's a
right?
real life thing.
I mean, it's fascinating. I think we could talk about this forever. And you have obviously 700 videos into your YouTube career, been talking about it for a long time. And I got to say, thank you so much for, before we had technical issues, I don't know how long we've been talking. I think it's been about an hour and 13 minutes. But
Yeah.
man, the time has flown. This has been a fantastic conversation. Just
Oh
really
yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm going to get it out on Friday. But what do you want people to know about what you're doing and where to find you and how they can contribute to what you're producing?
Just, a link to the channel is fine. They can see, they can come that way. That's fine. And as for the support of it, just as long as they enjoy the videos, leave a comment or something like that. I do have the whole thing where people can leave super chat and donations, but I've had to clear that up with a lot of people, that people that play with, especially, that's not required. And I'm not trying to get money from people, because I just want people to enjoy what they're seeing out there. And hopefully it'll help their EQ, and that they'll enjoy the game playing it more. Everybody says, they've found out something new. Like if you look at
Right?
the latest videos, I've tried to make them even more geared towards the new players. Like the latest one is about the ghoul, just about the monsters, because as I got back into this new TLP, every year is a new one. I'm always meeting people. They're like, wow, I got killed by a ghoul today. And they're like higher level. And they're like, how come I got killed? And I was like, well, wow, they didn't know that you need magic weapons, or that the ghoul roots you and all that. Things that, we take for granted. But those videos have helped a lot of people. So as long as they enjoy the video, that's fine. That's all I ask.
That's fantastic. And I don't know, man. Thank you so much. I'll invite you again in the future if you'd like to have another conversation. There's so much about what you're doing and what you come from and the game itself that we can have ongoing conversations about. But again, thank you so much. Did I tell
Yes.
you Friday? I'll get this out on Friday.
Oh yeah. And I will put a link to your channel and all that so that they can see the video. I think I like what you're doing too. So I'd like to go both ways there.
What a world, right? Where you can decide that you're going to produce something and be able to produce it. To reach out to
Yeah.
somebody, I mean, I don't know where you live. You're Pacific
San
Coast,
Francisco.
San Francisco. What a great city. You're suffering like we are. It's empty, isn't it? How
Where
crazy are you
where
in
you from?
I'm in New York right now, New York City.
Oh wow, my brother lives in New York.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
You
Yeah. Go
crazy
ahead.
scary? Are you scared? Is it weird walking around San Francisco with it being empty and stuff?
The funny thing is that when the lockdown first happened back in March, it was really like a zombie movie out here.
Yeah,
It was the weirdest thing. I went out. I
same,
remember when they
same.
locked everything down,
I
and
was
I
in the East
drove down.
Village. You know the East Village, how crazy it is, right?
Really, yeah, it's so busy.
Empty,
But then
empty, empty. So crazy.
I know it was just like that. And then I was driving down the street, and there was just nobody there. And it was like driving
Right.
down at 2 a.m., but with the sun out. And I drive through the streets, and I got to a point where I was thinking, do I need to stop at the stoplight anymore? And I saw other people driving through the stoplights. It was just like a zombie movie. And I was thinking, like, these guys in a truck are going to come around, they have guns and all that, and just drive right through and start, like chaos and anarchy was going to take over. But because there was nobody, there weren't even police or anything. I didn't see a police car, nobody anywhere. It was crazy. But now it's the total opposite. Things have turned around, and people are they're just doing whatever they do whenever they want. So that's why we have a lot of cases, not much in the city here, but in California it's gotten pretty bad, I think, and that's why the schools are closed. But I was scared, but now I'm just really, really careful out there with social distancing. I know New York got it really bad. I feel for you guys out there, really bad.
I don't know what we got really bad though. No, is it a disease or is it just a really bad political climate? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
awful to see what's happening. I read somebody said we have 78,000 homeless people here. You know what I mean? This NYPD
Oh
thing that's
yeah.
happening, and it's like you watch the news and you wonder, okay, now when am I going to be able to read what's actually happening? Because none of this seems to make any sense. But it's
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
disgusting out there. It's horrid. It's horrid. In certain sections of the city, it's like complete lawlessness.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of lawlessness, like I put that video up of the looting raiders raiding Walgreens, and that's I saw a couple things like that happen, and I thought this is really weird. I've never seen that before, and I'm in a pretty good neighborhood, but now it's hitting the news, and this kind of thing is common. But then somebody responded on the video and said, "Oh, this has been going on for a long time in New York." He's out in New York, and I was really shocked because yeah, we have a lot of homeless people out here, and they just move them to different places, but there's a lot, and there's a lot of the crime is really starting to pick up out here. So it's getting a little scary in that
It's
sense.
scary. And I would imagine the next few months, we're going to see a lot of these people start dying. It's going to get cold and they have no place to go. Everything's filled.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it's a nightmare. It's a freaking nightmare, unfortunately. Why do we start talking about this?
Hey, it's good to talk to you. The thing
Yeah.
is, that's one thing I enjoy is with the people that are playing with me. I enjoy just having a talk. I mean, everybody has a story, and the other guy we had last night, Arturus, he was telling about how he was a manager at Baker Square. That's like like a Denny's type of place, but with desserts. And I don't know how we got to the conversation, but it was a few live streams ago, and he said that yeah, he was a manager there, and he interviewed over 300 people, and he could tell after 5 minutes if they're good. And he had super low mishire rate, and I was like, wow, what a story, And yeah, like I said, everybody's got a good story, and that's what I love about it. It's a social interaction in the
I,
game and playing the game too.
I would wonder what a good hire in a restaurant is. You know what I mean? Because it's not a job
Yeah.
that you would necessarily stay at forever.
That's right.
As a writer, I've had many, many, many waiting jobs. And, am I a good hire if I stay for 3 months or 2 years? You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going to stay
Yep.
forever. I'm going to end up
That's
getting
right.
fired eventually or quitting. But cats don't get
Yeah.
fired.
Yeah. So everybody's got a story. So I love hearing the stories, and just
Absolutely.
chatting with people too. I'm a people person.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Again, this has been fantastic, and hopefully we'll be staying in touch going forward. Maybe I can get on
Yeah.
EQ and actually play with you guys. I've never been on
Yep.
the actual test server, so maybe if I could be whatever, that'd be
That's
cool.
right. Yep. And we'll level you up.
That would be
So,
fantastic. That would be so cool. Actually play with people and to log into one character instead of six.
yeah, that's right. We scale it. The thing about the test servers, I like to have these kind of staged experiences where we set up the experience so it is staged to kind of fit the group. And sometimes it turns out pretty good. Like some of the raids we do, I scale down how many people are on the raid or how many boxes you could bring in so that the raid is really, really close. Like Plane and Shadow, I think that was one of them. Or there's one before that recently that was pretty good, or even Doomscale Horde, the recent one, it got a decent amount of hits. But I like to set those up so that they're not too hard where we can't do them, but they're just hard enough where everybody has to do their part, but they're bigger than six person group encounters. So it fills that niche in EverQuest and everybody really likes it. So yeah, that would be good if yeah, anytime. Keep in touch,
Let me ask you one last question. The
Sure.
test server, does it reset your character? Did I already ask you that?
No,
No, it
no,
does
no.
not ever. So you
They
maintain. Okay.
Yeah, it is the best kept secret in the game. Why?
Interesting.
Because when you
Yeah.
get on that server, you get a free all access membership just to the test server. Now, normally on a live server like Coronavirus or Bertox, whatever, you got to pay $15 a month for the membership, for a gold membership. But on the test server, all of that is free. They don't reset it or anything. And the only difference is they take it down here and there, a few times more to testing. But that's expected. But not
But
only that,
if you're an old school EQ player, you remember when they used to take it down whenever the hell they wanted, and it would stay down for however they long wanted to keep it down. It was never like a set day. Like,
yep.
was it just Tuesdays? What day was it that I hated
The,
when anything
yeah,
else?
the test server is Tuesday, but yeah, in the old days, the servers would go down without any warning, just boom,
And it would
and it
keep
would just
going.
go down. And
I wanted to play, and
yeah,
you'd come back and you were dead because
yeah,
you were in the middle of
definitely
killing a
did.
mob. Oh man, I don't know. Like I said, I could talk to you forever, but I already feel bad for keeping you on for as
No,
long
no,
as
it's
I have.
okay.